The latest naval station not fully operational after quakes. Los Angeles APU. The latest on Southern California's strongest earthquake in 20 years. All times local. Naval Air Weapons Station China Lake says it is not fully operational after back-to-back major earthquakes hit Southern California. The station said Saturday in a Facebook post that its non-essential personnel were evacuated. The installation in the Mojave Desert covers an area larger than Rhode Island and is the Navy's largest single land holding. The Facebook post says normal operations were halted until further notice and it was not clear when they would resume. Friday's 7.1 magnitude's quake occurred a day after a magnitude 6.4 quake hit in the same area about 150 miles from Los Angeles. The mayor of Ridgecrest says there were 2 reports of burglaries in the Southern California city following the 7.1 earthquake Friday night. Mayor Peggy Breeden said Saturday that some bad. Police Chief Jed McLaughlin said one business was burglarized, with an expensive piece of equipment stolen. A home was also broken into and police are waiting to see what was taken. Friday's quake occurred a day after a magnitude 6.4 quake hit in the same area of the Mojave Desert about 150 miles from Los Angeles. Officials say there were some power outages. A state official says damage from the 7.1 magnitude earthquake in Southern California was not as bad as authorities expected. Mark S. Ghilarducci, director of the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, said Saturday that Ridgecrest and Trona suffered structure fires, gas leaks, power outages, road damage and rock slides. He says the damage was not as extensive as expected despite back-to-back quakes on Thursday and Friday. He says nearly 200 people were in shelters. Ghilarducci says cleanup work is underway in San Bernardino and Kern counties, and Caltrans has worked to patch and fix roads, as well as clear rock slides. A fire official says there were no fatalities or major injuries in Ridgecrest after the 7.1 magnitude's earthquake on Friday night. Kern County Fire Chief David Witt also said Saturday there were no major building collapses but some structures could be weakened from the back-to-back quakes. Friday's quake occurred a day after a magnitude 6.4 quake hit in the same area of the Mojave Desert about 150 miles from Los Angeles. Witt says there were some power outages and minor gas and water leaks in Ridgecrest, but no known damage outside the area. He urged residents to get supplies ready in case another quake hits. Government. Gavin Newsom has. The declaration provides immediate state assistance to San Bernardino County, citing conditions of extreme. State highway officials shut a 30-mile section of State Route 178 between Ridgecrest U. The area hit by 2 major temblors as many days U and the town of Trona southwest of Death Valley. Photos posted on Twitter by the State Highway Department shows numerous cracks in the road. A spokesman for the Governor's Office of Emergency Services says crews were still assessing damages to water lines, gas lines, and other infrastructure Saturday. Small communities in the Mojave Desert are reeling from a magnitude 7.1 earthquake U, the second major temblor in as many days to rock Southern California. Authorities say Friday night's shaker was centered near the town of Ridgecrest U, the same area where a 6.4 magnitude quake hit on Independence Day. Mark Ghilarducci, director of the California Office of Emergency Services, says there are significant. He also says there's a report of a building collapse in tiny Trona. He says there could be. The quake at 8:19 p.m. was felt as far north as Sacramento and even in Las Vegas. It's been followed by. Authorities say a magnitude 7.1 earthquake that jolted California has caused injuries, sparked fires, shut roads, and shaken ball games and theme parks. However, authorities say there are no deaths or major building damage reported from the quake. which struck at 8:19 p.m. Friday. It was centered about 150 miles from Los Angeles in the Mojave Desert near the town of Ridgecrest, which was still recovering from a 6.4 magnitude press hawk that hit the region on Thursday. There were reports of trailers burning at a mobile home, and State Route 178 in Kern County was closed by a rockslide and roadway damage. But Kern County Fire Chief David Witt says it appears no buildings collapsed. He also says, an earthquake rattled Dodger Stadium in the fourth inning of the team's game against the San Diego Padres. The quake on Friday night happened when Dodgers second baseman Enrique Hernandez was batting. It didn't appear to, however, it was obvious to viewers of the Sportsnet LA broadcast when the TV picture bounced up and down. The quake registered an initial magnitude of 6.9 to 7.1, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. There was no announcement by the stadium's public address announcer. Some fans in the upper deck appeared to leave their seats and move to a concourse at the top of the stadium. The press box lurched for about 20 seconds. The quake occurred a day after a magnitude 6.4 quake hit in the Mojave Desert, about 150 miles from Los Angeles. Authorities are now reporting injuries and damage from a big earthquake that was felt throughout Southern California and into Las Vegas and even Mexico. The quake that hit at 8:19 p.m. was given a preliminary magnitude of 6.9 to 7.1, but the measurements were being calculated. It followed Thursday's 6.4 magnitude quake that at the time was the largest Southern California quake in 20 years. Both were centered near Kern County. Fire officials reported multiple. An earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 6.9 has jolted Southern California, but there are no immediate reports of damage or injuries.